In the early days of 2025, Los Angeles found itself at the center of one of the worst wildfire seasons in its history. A series of 17 devastating wildfires erupted across Southern California, fueled by an unprecedented combination of severe drought, powerful Santa Ana winds, and the relentless march of climate change. These fires tore through thousands of acres, displacing entire communities, destroying homes, and leaving a trail of economic and environmental destruction. But how did it happen? What led to this catastrophe, and what lessons can be learned from it? This documentary uncovers the raw truth behind the 2025 LA wildfires, examining the factors that ignited them, their impact on people and nature, and the response that followed. Why the 2025 wildfires were unstoppable. First, record-breaking drought. Los Angeles had already been struggling with water shortages for years, but 2025 saw the driest start to the rainy season on record. The region had received less than 10% of its expected rainfall between September 2024 and January 2025, leaving vegetation bone dry and highly flammable. This drought, exacerbated by rising global temperatures, turned the forests and hillsides of Southern California into a tinderbox. 2. The Santa Ana winds, nature's fire accelerant. The Santa Ana winds, notorious for their role in intensifying wildfires, were especially fierce in 2025. With gusts reaching up to 100 miles per hour, these winds carried embers across vast distances, igniting new fires before firefighters could even contain existing ones. Experts have long warned about the increasing intensity of these winds due to changing atmospheric conditions, and the 2025 fires proved just how destructive they could be when combined with extreme drought. 3. Climate change and rising temperatures. Climate change played a significant role in setting the stage for these wildfires. According to climatologists, the average temperature in California had risen by nearly 2.5 degrees Fahrenheit over the past century, with 2025 being one of the hottest years on record. Higher temperatures meant lower humidity, drier forests, and an extended fire season. Scientists warned that without drastic measures to combat climate change, such wildfires would become even more frequent and devastating in the coming years. The major fires of January 2025. The wildfires of 2025 weren't a single event, but a chain reaction of multiple fires breaking out across Los Angeles County and beyond. As we display this data on screen, let's take a moment to understand the devastation caused by the Palisades Fire of January 2025, a disaster that left a lasting impact on Pacific Palisades, Topanga, and Malibu. Over 23,000 acres of land were consumed by raging flames, leaving behind a trail of destruction. Tragically, 12 lives were lost as the fire spread rapidly through communities. Nearly 6,837 structures were reduced to ashes, displacing thousands of residents. Investigators believe that the blaze was ignited by downed power lines, fueled by intense winds, making it one of the most devastating wildfires in recent history. The numbers tell a heartbreaking story, but behind them are real lives, families, and communities struggling to rebuild. Now let's turn our attention to another devastating wildfire, the Eaton Fire of January 2025. Burning across Eaton Canyon and Altadena, this fire scorched approximately 14,021 acres, leaving nothing but charred remains in its wake. The toll was heartbreaking. 17 lives lost as the flames moved unpredictably through the region. More than 9,000 structures were reduced to rubble, displacing countless families. Early investigations point to poorly maintained electrical equipment as a possible cause, raising concerns about infrastructure safety in fire-prone areas. Another disaster, another community left to pick up the pieces. The scars of this fire will last for years. The Hughes Fire of January 2025 added yet another chapter to the wildfire devastation that year. This inferno spread across 10,176 acres near Castaic Lake, forcing mass evacuations as authorities scrambled to contain its rapid advance. The true human toll remains undetermined, but thousands were forced to flee their homes, uncertain of what they would return to. Investigators are still searching for answers, but arson remains a strong possibility, raising concerns about whether this disaster was man-made. As communities reel from the destruction, one question remains: could this tragedy have been prevented? The human cost, tragedy, and displacement. Beyond the staggering numbers of acres burned and structures destroyed, the human toll of these wildfires was immense. Casualties, at least 29 confirmed deaths, with more missing persons reported. Evacuations, over 212,000 residents were forced to flee their homes, some of whom lost everything. Economic losses, estimated between $250 billion to $275 billion, covering property damage, firefighting costs, insurance claims, and economic disruptions. Air quality. Thick smoke blanketed Los Angeles for weeks, leading to severe respiratory issues, particularly among children, the elderly, and those with pre-existing conditions. Environmental and ecological consequences. The devastation wasn't limited to human lives and infrastructure. The 2025 wildfires severely impacted the local environment. Loss of wildlife. Thousands of animals perished, while many more were displaced, struggling to find food and shelter in the aftermath. Soil erosion and flood risks. The loss of vegetation increased the risk of mudslides and flash floods, a threat that became evident as winter storms arrived later in the season. Long-term climate effects. The carbon emissions from these wildfires significantly contributed to greenhouse gas levels, further worsening climate change. Firefighting and government response. Despite valiant efforts from thousands of firefighters, containment proved difficult due to the extreme conditions. Deployment. Over 7,000 firefighters were mobilized, along with aerial firefighting units using water-dropping helicopters and fire-retardant planes. Federal aid. Governor Gavin Newsom declared a state of emergency and secured a major disaster declaration from the federal government, unlocking billions in aid for recovery efforts. Utility accountability. Investigations into electrical equipment failures led to renewed debates over underground power lines and the role of utility companies in preventing future fires. Lessons learned and future preparedness. The 2025 LA wildfires serve as a stark warning for what lies ahead. In their aftermath, experts and officials emphasized the need for improved infrastructure, strengthening electrical grids to prevent sparks during high-wind events, enhanced emergency alerts, utilizing AI and satellite technology to predict and detect wildfires faster, forest management, implementing controlled burns and proactive land management to reduce fuel loads. Climate action, addressing global warming through policies aimed at reducing emissions and investing in sustainable energy solutions. The 2025 LA wildfires were not just a natural disaster, they were a wake-up call. As climate change intensifies, wildfires will become more frequent and more ferocious unless decisive action is taken. The destruction witnessed in Los Angeles serves as a reminder that urgent measures are needed to adapt to and mitigate the impacts of our changing world.